Just Malignaggi. Don't look at the spelling.
I can't look at anything. I'm looking at your bald ass head.
Hey, that's pretty. Come on.
All right, everyone. Now's the time. Let's put the women and children to bed and go looking for fucking dinner. What's up, everybody? It's Craig and Chad with another episode of C2 Sports. Follow us on Twitter at C2 Sports with a Z. And
Like Zorro.
There you go.
Z.
Nice.
Like Zorro.
Also on Facebook.
Out there.
Facebook.com. I wasn't ready for it. Facebook.com/C2 Sports. I thought you were gonna pull out Xena, and that always got me because I always thought that started with a Z, and that messed me up. I know, but she was hot back in the day. She was hot back in the day. Hell yeah.
Xena?
Yeah. You don't think so?
It's a huge bitch. No, I do. I think she's very pretty.
Yeah, man.
I think she's prettier as Spartacus, though.
She was an older woman as Spartacus. Shame on you.
But prettier.
You.
Xena, she would have broke your dick off.
That's
okay.
Okay.
We gotta edit that. Oh, jeez.
I'm gonna beep that out. That's nice.
Edit your bloop bloop.
Yeah. All right. So today we are finally going to talk about the fight of the century.
Ever.
Yeah, the biggest fight of all time. We're talking about Mayweather and Conor, right? And I don't know. You called me yesterday, and we're pretty fired up about this. So I'm gonna let you take the lead on it and kind of go with it because you were pretty pissed off.
I was pissed because I'm getting sick and tired of all the stupid shit that gets leaked out and how it's always thrown in a different way than it really is. When it first came out, it looked like Conor was being a bit of a bitch, a little stuck-up dude who was just trying to throw shade at Paulie Malignaggi about fighting, doing some sparring, and he, knocked him down a few times. But really, when it was all said and done, if you looked at the full 12 rounds, Malignaggi easily won from what it first came out. And then, so as a huge fan of Conor, I was a little disappointed because I feel like that's a little below him to act that way, to call out another guy who's a sparring partner and kind of clown him and call him up and say, hey, we're gonna spar, and then he shows up to the gym, Malignaggi does, and he doesn't even talk to him, barely says anything to him about sparring, and then makes him wait there for hours on end, and then tells him I'm not sparring today. And Malignaggi had just jumped off a plane, and he was just put in a bad spot, so it looked really bad. And then when they did end up sparring, it ended up going, I guess it got pretty physical, got pretty crazy. And
a lot of talking.
Yeah, well, and that's what Malignaggi was doing on purpose. First off, it's in his wheelhouse to do that. He's a talker. He's a Jersey kid, I believe. Or might be a New York City or Brooklyn kid, actually, not a Jersey kid. And what he said was that he was trying to get in Conor's ear and trying to get in his head, because that's exactly what Floyd's going to do. And he thinks that he got under Conor's skin while they were fighting, and that's what ultimately led to all this. So maybe it wasn't the best sports fan of me to go right with what Paulie Malignaggi was saying, but I felt like I kind of believed him right off the bat. Well, then as the weekend went around and it started talking more, Conor's camp started talking more about it, it started to sound like a little bit of sour grapes on Malignaggi's part and a little less of like the stuck-up champ that he was making Conor out to be. So what actually ended up happening was it started to come out that maybe he did get the best of Paulie Malignaggi towards the end of the rounds, and there was some leaked footage out there where he hit him with a couple real nice straight lefts, and then he ended up putting him down briefly. And it looked a little awkward in the sense that he had his right hand down, almost like he was guiding his hand into, or Paulie Malignaggi's head into a punch, and then just kind of giving him one of those like hammer punches, nothing too hard, and then Paulie went down. Malignaggi got pissed about this, obviously said that it was completely out of context, said the video was wrong, this, that, and the other thing. So Dana White actually came to Conor's defense, surprise, surprise, and posted 2 or 3 different views of the same hit, just to kind of throw shade at Paulie Malignaggi, saying, no, this was a legit knockdown. And the more I looked at it, the more I believed that it wasn't a push down. It looked like a legit knockdown. Malignaggi to me looked kind of tired. He looked kind of beat up a little bit. Conor caught him with a stiff left that the left hit Malignaggi so hard that it made Malignaggi look uh, almost amateur. But I know it's just one punch, so I'm not going to put too much credit with that. But it looked bad for Malignaggi in those videos, and I do believe that you could obviously take a lot of this out of context. But it was nice to see a different view of it because, again, I was, as a fan, when you get disappointed in the people that you root for or the teams that you root for, all you want to know is that there's got to be another side to this because I can't handle that my boy looks like this. Like, this is my guy. This is the guy I root for all the time. This is the guy that I get nervous for when he's walking out to the ring or the octagon. And so it was in a way nice to see that there was another side to the story. I like that Conor didn't come out and just bash him verbally or anything like that. He had a 20-something minute interview with Ariel Helwani where he did talk about it a little bit, and I wanted to hear a little bit more about it. But I was camping this weekend and couldn't get my Wi-Fi to get up and running.
Yeah, you're struggling.
So if you have any 2 cents about it, I just it's unfortunate because I like that Malignaggi was involved in the camp because he's actually one of the guys that Showtime has on for the boxing side of it, along with Brendan Schaub for the MMA side of it. And they both have a good chemistry when they talk to each other. They're both very honest and they're not very biased. And I actually really dig what they had to bring to each other and with the way they were talking about the fight leading up. And I always thought that Malignaggi did a good job of not kissing Conor's ass, but not kissing the boxer's ass either. He did a really good job of staying between. And what sucks now is that I feel like Malignaggi is going to be a little bit more, have an axe to grind with Conor. He's going to jump right on the boxing side now. He's already made a lot of comments that Conor's a prick and Conor's a dirtbag and all these things. And it just kind of taints the whole thing because I think Conor was pissed off that maybe that Paul Malignaggi wasn't giving him enough credit for his power back a couple weeks ago when they were talking about. Anyways, as you were going to say.
Yeah, honestly, I called this a long time ago when this first started happening. When he left the camp and wasn't gonna be the sparring partner anymore, I said they're gonna set this up for a boxing match. They're gonna box at some point because you think about it, Conor made $3 million his last UFC fight, and that was the biggest payday of any UFC fighter ever. He's about to make what 75, 80 around there, million for one night boxing. He's gonna taste that, and I'm hard pressed. I hope he comes back to the UFC, but I mean, honestly, do you think he will? I mean,
no.
Other than the fact that he's
one
under
of the first
contract.
things he ever said. One of the first things he ever said when he was coming into it was that he wanted to make as much as he could and get out as early as he could with the least amount of damage possible. So this is as perfect as it gets. This is like Ray Lewis winning a Super Bowl and walking out, or Bettis. This is he's gonna get
Ray
that
Lewis,
payday.
man. Ugh.
Whatever.
John Elway, no good.
Yeah, I don't like horse teeth.
Easy. But that's what I thought of the whole sparring thing. But I think that's taking away right now of the actual fight. And I know we have some opinions on the fight, and we probably think the same way. We probably think it's going to go the same way, although we probably want it to go a different way. So I'm going to go in.
Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah, I'm going to go there. I'm a huge fan of Conor just because of the way he thinks, and like I love him as a fighter. I love all the things he's accomplished. I think it's great. I kind of like how he's kind of a showman and talks a lot, and the way he does. I kind of like the accent, so it kind of is funny to me. So, but if you ever listen to him about his visualization and all his stuff, that he's very, very into like the law of attractions type stuff and things like that. And I think it's pretty impressive what he was able to do in such a short amount of time. I mean, like 4 years ago, the dude was like he said, he was fighting, in front of a couple hundred people, for peanuts. And now he's fighting Floyd Mayweather, which, I mean, from 4 years ago, like I said, nowhere to now. So it's pretty friggin' substantial, and it's awesome that he was able to kind of create that and, like, in a way, call his own shot. He, almost everything he said he was going to do, he did. Aside from the whole Nate Diaz thing, which I think people give him shit for losing to Nate Diaz, but it's a tough matchup for him. You know, on the feet he was wrecking Diaz, but dude has an iron chin. Diaz, both Diaz brothers, they're too stupid to go down.
We could start a whole episode about the
Yeah,
Diaz
man.
brothers, man.
The
Like,
only time that he ever got worked was against Josh Thompson when Nick threw in the towel for him. But you know, they don't get stopped. They're like friggin' zombies. They're just gonna keep coming at you. So he was hitting him with everything, but he just gassed out, and that's what I'm afraid might happen against Mayweather, because he's gonna be swinging it air a lot of the time. Yeah, everyone says there's a puncher's chance. That's true, in a way, but it's kind of hard to hit somebody that's doing the Matrix. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But Mayweather kind of reminds me of a little bit is Anderson, and the way he would do, lean back and not get hit and come and be just out of the way of the punches, and then come back in, pop, 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 and lean back. So now, the one that got him was Chris Weidman. He finally got him doing that stuff, leaning back, and he caught him on the chin. That's one of my favorite UFC fights of all time. But I don't see that happening with Conor. I hope it does, man. I really hope it does. But I just don't see it. I see Conor coming at him, being making the fight a little exciting for 2 or 3, maybe 4 rounds. But then I'm afraid he might gas out, man.
it's tough to say. I don't think he'll gas out as much as I think that Floyd will get the timing down and figure out what McGregor's doing, and just kind of pick him apart and not get touched. I think it'll take some rounds for him to figure it out, because I think McGregor's going to be completely unorthodox. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily just because he's a lefty, but just because he's going to be swinging totally different than most boxers would. Mm-hmm. And he's also going to be going into it not really scared to get knocked out or even get punched. I don't think Conor gives a shit about getting punched, because I don't think he thinks that he can get knocked out at all. Whereas other boxers that have fought Floyd, I think other boxers, even the tough guys like Canelo and some of the dudes that had a good jaw, I think even those dudes let Floyd get in their heads a little bit. I think that was one of Floyd's biggest weapons before the fight, was that he was able to get in guys' heads and talk a lot of shit and rattle people. Like, I think he even rattled Pacquiao, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But he's sure as shit not rattling Conor whatsoever.
That's the thing.
And if you want to talk about, like, he's already sparring 12 rounds, which is a really good sign for Conor. I know that it's not the same output from the guy sparring Conor as Floyd might be bringing, but again, we don't know, because Floyd hasn't fought in 2 years.
Yeah.
And he's older, and if anybody's looking for a payday, I'm thinking it's him, Mr. IRS.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I keep getting more and more confidence leading into it, but it might not be as much confidence as it's just blind optimism, because there's only one way to go. Yeah. When it first started, I had no desire to see this fight. I was mad because I'm a huge Conor fan, and I feel like he has at least 5 awesome matchups waiting for him in the UFC that I would love to see. Mm-hmm. I want to see him fight Khabib real bad. I want to see him fight Tony Ferguson. I think those 2 guys are killers. Mm-hmm. I think those are 2 absolute animals in that 155 division. I want to see him fight Diaz again. I think that'd be just an awesome way to end a trilogy. There's a bunch of little fights in there. There's a ton of shit talkers in there that want to fight Conor. Mm-hmm. I don't think Conor could ever have a bad matchup in the UFC, because every dude's going to go in there to try and kick his ass, and he's going to talk so much shit and be hilarious about it for the most part. And he's just a great promoter. So I'm bummed out that this fight is taking over all the potential fights that he has in the UFC. But as a smart person, I understand that he's got to get paid, and he's not going to have nearly the challenge. Yeah, he might not win this fight, or most likely won't win this fight, but it isn't shit compared to what would happen if he's maybe fighting Khabib in Russia. I mean, he could get murked.
Yeah.
If he's fighting Tony Ferguson could murk his ass. Who knows? Mm-hmm. He could even lose to Diaz for a 3rd time. Who knows? Even though I would like to see that at 155.
Mm-hmm.
because the previous two were at 170, and I don't know. I think that Conor has a little bit better of a shot than I did a month ago. But I also think it's just a little bit of optimism because I just cannot stand Floyd Mayweather, and I just want to see that dude go to sleep. And
Yeah.
I think I saw an article today of like where if Conor upset him, where would this rank in sports history? How the hell could it not be number one?
Hmm.
I mean, this dude is not a boxer, and
Yeah.
he'd come in and he'd beat a guy who's 49-0,
Yeah.
who's considered the greatest defensive boxer of all time.
Right.
Number one. This would be the greatest sports shit that we've ever seen in our lives.
Yeah, I think so too. Do you think? Now, I know your answer and I know my answer, but I think a lot of people think that Conor's in it for the money and that's all he's in it for. Do you think he thinks he's going to win this fight?
I definitely think he thinks he's going to win this fight.
So do
Yeah.
I. So do I.
Yeah, and I do. Obviously, I think he's in it for the payday, but I don't think that he would put himself out there to look like a clown
Right.
either. He's not that type of dude.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's gonna go into it and just be like, "Who gives a shit if I get knocked out or I get slapped around by this dude? I'm getting my money."
Mm-hmm.
He gives off that a little bit when he talks, and he gets talking a little bit too much about money. I think he gets a little bit too much like, this is how much I paid for this and that, and I hate that shit. No matter who's talking, whether he's my favorite fighter or my least favorite, I can't stand when dudes are saying that stuff. Like, I paid X amount of dollars for this stupid coat I'm wearing or whatever. I hate that shit. But I really do think that as much as he's in it for the money, I really do think he's in it because he really believes he can knock this dude out.
I think he does too.
And that's the confidence that he's brought to the UFC since he started, and that's why he is where he is.
And that's what people who don't follow the UFC or don't know who he is, don't know about him, don't know that side of Conor. He is that confident, and he does make that stuff happen. And like I said before, it's pretty friggin' impressive to watch. I really think he believes 110% that he's going to knock him out inside of 4 rounds. I hope it happens, man. I don't know what I would do. It would be amazing to see.
I'd be super stoked.
Yeah, it would be amazing to see. But then again, I know you had an incident where you overheard people talking at a restaurant. I hear people talking all the time that I'm not saying I'm an expert on this stuff, but I watch pretty much every MMA fight there is. Not just UFC. I mean, I stay up late and watch fights in Japan and overseas and stuff like that. Watch fights on the internet. I'm not a huge boxing fan, so I don't know that much about it. But I do know that people saying that Floyd is going to knock him out, especially early in the fight, should be checked. And they don't know what they're talking about. They're not intelligent. And if you're saying that, you're just dumb, in my opinion.
I think Floyd has as good of a shot of knocking him out as Conor does of winning by decision.
Right, yeah. Right.
That sounds weird, but a little convoluted, but there is no chance in hell that Conor wins this fight by decision. Right. Because if it's up to the judges are not going to sell boxing out and be like, yeah, we're going to give it to the MMA guy. There's no goddamn way. He's going to have to knock him out to win this fight. So, and I don't think, and I'm talking about Conor knocking Floyd out to win this fight. I don't think that Floyd would have to catch him.
The only way he knocks him
out,
out,
goddamn Mike Tyson punch.
The only way he knocks him out, I think, is if Conor is so gassed that he just gives up, and I don't see him doing that. Although he kind of did against Diaz, he was just done. He was just completely done. And
but I mean, how many punches did he throw in that first round?
Right.
I mean, he completely gassed himself, and he also, to Nate Diaz's credit, he also took a bunch of punches. Right. It wasn't just the gas. He took a bunch of punches on the jaw. There was a couple that I remember that maybe the third or fourth punch that he caught, I remember seeing Conor's face and his body change, and I was like, holy shit, Conor's going to lose his fight. I've never seen Conor like that. Even when he fought Chad Mendes, he never looked like that. Right. Even though he had a cut on his eye and he was down on the ground getting wrestled. But he never looked like he was going to lose the fight. That was the first time I couldn't believe I saw Conor like that. But in retrospect, when you talk about the confidence of Conor, did you ever in a million years think that he had a chance to do what he did to Alvarez?
No.
In that fight? I mean, Jesus Christ, he made him look amateur. The last time I seen a fighter look that amateur was when Forrest fought Anderson.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's the last time I saw a dude look that outclassed
Yeah.
standing up with another guy.
And that's coming off of what Eddie just did to Rafael dos Anjos, who was
Right.
killing everyone in that division, who was just
Yeah.
running through everyone in that division
That's what I was
with
gonna say too. That
easily.
When you said Diaz got smoked by Thompson, the only other guy to do it besides Thompson was I'm pretty
Rafael
sure
dos
Dos
Anjos.
Anjos. Yeah,
That
Dos
was a lot of
Anjos was
leg
like
kicks. That was leg
power
kicks.
bombing him.
Yeah, but
It's like
that
power
was leg
bomb.
kick. That's the one that's the fight that really pissed Nate off because he kept chopping at his front leg.
Yeah,
And he's like, "That's not fighting, man." And I agree with him there. That's boring. But unless it's Edson Barbosa, when you
I was
can
gonna say,
chop
but
somebody,
your
that
favorite
I know,
fighter
man.
chops dudes
I
all the
do that,
time.
but that's a different level. Like
I know, but Dos
he'll
Anjos
tear
was a
your
fucking
ACL out.
animal for
Yeah,
about four fights in a row there.
yeah. But then he looked silly against Eddie, and then Eddie Alvarez, like he just talk about outclass, man. I mean, that fight was like he looked like he was scared. He literally looked like he was scared in there.
I honestly think that after the first few hits, he was totally out of his mind. Like he didn't know what the hell he
Right.
was going to do. He even admitted I was completely out of my game plan.
Mm-hmm.
Now he was using that, and to my opinion, or in my opinion, he was using that as a little bit of an excuse. Like, oh, I ducked away from my game plan and I got too emotional. No, dude, you got knocked out of your game plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got scared. You got murked a couple times, and you didn't know what the hell to do.
Right.
And you couldn't stand up with Conor.
Mm-hmm.
And then Conor just picked him apart. I mean, that 4-punch combo was like,
Yeah.
that shit was art, man.
Yeah.
That's what mixed martial arts. Meryl Streep, go fuck yourself.
Okay. So, but in my opinion, the people that are saying that, and then that's the other thing too, that boxers have so much more cardio and it's such a harder sport than mixed martial arts. Have you like you were
Please
telling me?
grapple.
That's what I'm
Please
saying.
grapple for 5 minutes.
Yeah, like that jujitsu stuff, man. Defending that kind of stuff when somebody has you in a triangle, in a body triangle, sucking the life out of you, and then you're defending all these moves with every muscle in your body.
Your whole body.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Or trying to defend takedowns up against the cage. That is more stamina than a boxer could ever imagine. I understand and I respect them going 12 rounds. I get it. But they're only doing so much, you know?
But the thing, bringing back to the restaurant that you were talking about, that I heard a couple guys talking that were just, they were legit Barnum and Bailey clowns after they were done talking about this shit. They were saying that fighting 12 rounds of boxing and then is so much superior to a guy fighting 2 or 3 rounds. Now, okay. First off, I don't think they know how many minutes are in a boxing round compared to an MMA round.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, they're talking about that Conor doesn't have a chance against Floyd, even though he beat Brock Lesnar, who had a cracked sternum. So everything they said before that was suspect was so out the window after I heard that he beat Brock Lesnar. So he beat a guy who weighs 100 pounds more than him, who had a cracked sternum. So I'll let you go with what you said that they must have confused Conor with.
They thought
Damn near the funniest thing I've heard.
They must have thought he was Sheamus. It was Sheamus against Brock with the sternum. I remember it. That's who they think Conor is. I'm telling you. That's the only possible explanation for somebody saying something that asinine. I don't get some of these people.
I was just like Jim Carrey and Dumb and Dumber. I was just like, check please.
Yeah.
Like there's no goddamn way I could listen to another second of these guys talking. And I felt like I was in the Truman Show for a second, another Jim Carrey reference where I honestly thought that I was on camera.
Yeah.
Someone was just trying to see like what my boiling point was, because these guys were talking so much dumb shit after dumb shit and piling it on with more shit. And the sad thing is that the majority of people that are talking about this fight are kind of no better than these two guys that I heard talking.
But isn't that the problem, though? I think that's a huge problem with the UFC is they're promoting it to this type of fan who is not knowledgeable in it at all. That's why Brock Lesnar is so popular. And they're doing this crossover event, which I get it. It's going to be a huge payday for everyone. But people are just not educated enough to handle this. Everyone has their opinion, and I respect it. I'll listen to it unless you drop a Brock Lesnar sternum reference. Then you're done. If I was there, it would have been hands. I would have just gone over
Yeah,
and politely slapped him on the top of his hand for being a dummy. But
it was bad.
yeah, I don't know how you stayed there, but I mean, in my opinion, like I said, to wrap this one up, I hope that Conor wins the fight. I hope he knocks his head off. I hope he like seriously knocks him completely out, but I don't think he's going to. I think it's going to be a boring. It's going to be an exciting first couple rounds, and then I think it's going to be a boring Mayweather fight, defensive,
Yeah,
in and out, gone.
it's really hard to figure out. I mean, you kind of hit on it too. You were saying like a lot of these guys that are out there talking about it aren't experts. I can honestly say I know way more about MMA than I do boxing, so it's really hard for me to grasp a good opinion on boxing side of it. But I have become a little more interested in boxing as of late, just because there's a decent amount of guys out there as opposed to the last few years where I just feel like it hasn't been as appealing to watch. But there's some guys out there now that are really nice and real good fighters, real nice to watch.
Mm.
So I'm trying to get more into boxing because I think it's cool to have the different kinds of sports. Boxing has such a tradition. I would hate to see it go to the shitter, but which is where it's kind of been going anyway. MMA to me is just always going to be superior just because of the different styles of fighting and the ability to fight in any aspect or any realm.
Mhm.
I'm always going to give that the thumbs up over boxing, but it's no disrespect to boxing. It's just one dimensional compared to the others. So uh, my prediction is pretty much the same, man. I think Connor's going to come out with some crazy ass punches. He might even connect once, and not really solidly, but just enough to make the crowd go ooh and get people excited. And then it's just going to be a lot of duck hunt and just a lot of fucking missing. And you know, I see it going 12 rounds. You know, 9 rounds out of 12 to Floyd, something stupid like that. And they're gonna hug, and they're gonna slap each other on the ass, and they're gonna fucking count their money after, and they're gonna be boys after this shit, which they probably already are boys.
Mhm.
And I know Floyd was bringing up something about Conor being racist. I'm sorry, but I think that was just a
Yeah.
last second projection to see if he can try and get more people. He said he was going to beat Conor for black people.
Mhm.
That was one of the things he just said, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
So I mean, he can turn it into that. I don't think that's going to do anything for the fight. It's not going to make people buy it, but it might be a last ditch effort to do so. But I don't know. We'll see, man. It's exciting that it's in 2 weeks, and I'm a lot more interested in watching it than I was a couple months ago when they announced it. Like I said, but
Mhm.
I don't know. It'll be nice once it's over, because then I just want to know what Connor's going to do.
Right.
Because if he's going to be done with MMA, then ride off into the sunset, man, and start promoting and doing your thing for MacGregor Promotions and
Right.
doing that entertainment like he's really good at.
Yeah. All right. That's our predictions. I think both our hopes is a knockout for Conor, but we'll see.
Oh, see that guy go to sleep would be a dream.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later.
Peace out.